Hi everyone, it's Roger and Josh here for a special episode of the What's On at Disney Plus podcast. We wanted to get together, obviously with Christmas and the New Year and stuff, and just talk about the year of 2021 as a whole. So I've got Josh in here with me today, and we're just going to go through like our top three best things and our top three disappointments of 2021. And obviously we'll be coming from different angles as well, with being on different sides of the pond. But yeah, Josh, thank you very much for joining me for this one. Yeah, it's been quite a year for Disney Plus, hasn't it?
It has indeed, and I feel like we're doing this maybe annually. We did this last Christmas as well, kind of a Christmas special. But yeah, I'm a freelance journalist and covered Disney and a lot of different things, family entertainment wise, and certainly focusing on Disney Plus. And that was quite a year. But like you say, there was ups, there was downs. We're going to get to cover a lot of that, I guess, in this discussion. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of our sort of good ones and bad ones. So let's kick off with my list. First off, we're going to go one at a time. So first off, Marvel has to be one of my top three things on Disney Plus this year. I mean, we are talking. I mean, we've had 5 series. We've had three or four movies. It has just been an incredible collection of it. You know, when we think we didn't get anything last year other than like Hellstrom, which didn't even count. This year we've had so much stuff of all these Disney Plus shows, weekly releases. We've also had, as I said, we've had Shang-Chi and Black Widow drop onto Disney Plus this year as well. And obviously we just had the amazing Spider-Man movie that might not be on Disney Plus for a while, but it still will count. We'll count it. But what did you think of all this Marvel stuff this year?
It was phenomenal. I mean, you think about the cultural buzz even that went on with these shows. I think, Disney did it with Mandalorian, and people kind of wondered, can they repeat that success and make it literally topping the Nielsen streaming charts, topping, the most talked about shows. And over again in the last year, starting with WandaVision, of course, moving on to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then again with Loki, and, to a lesser degree, What If and Hawkeye. Those aren't maybe achieving quite the same level of cultural discussion, but those 5 shows were phenomenal. And particularly, I think WandaVision was so. I love that they went out the gate with something so different and just something that was really just a sci-fi concept that was really really out there and made you think about it. It's so much kind of water cooler conversation week to week. Not that anybody was in workplaces really, but it was more of a social media buzz week to week with that show. And here's my thing though. I think that the one that really has given us a finale that fulfilled its promise was Loki. I thought that Loki was really ended up there. I don't think that WandaVision and Falcon necessarily got there in their finales, but. We'll see what happens with Hawkeye. So
it's funny actually because you say that, because I feel like Falcon and the Winter Soldier had like the best ending. It felt like it was a proper ended with him becoming Captain America, and that was pretty much the point of the show. And then we left it with him as Captain America. WandaVision was kind of felt a little bit funny, in fact, of obviously we're setting up for the multiverse of madness. Loki in some ways didn't hit, because for me, if that thing of this will continue in season 2, but I've got a bit. I think Loki was my favorite series of all. And Hawkeye, I will say, as of recording, we are literally 12 hours away from the finale landing on Disney Plus, so we won't be able to discuss how that one worked. So what did you think of What If?
What If? I quite enjoyed it. I think it's a very different series, and it was great to see, I think, them start to get into animated series that are more mature. Well, that's one of my second points, actually, in terms of surprises this year. I felt that What If, as well as Bad Batch, both did a great job of giving us animated shows that are beyond just for kids. I mean, they gave us also, by the way, Monsters at Work and Doug Days, and I don't think those necessarily get as much buzz and attention as they should. But What If was great. It was absolutely out there. It was really engaging week to week. I thought some of the middle episodes particularly were really intriguing, and then how they wrapped it up with that, the whole kind of team up against Ultron. It was great. So I think folks should definitely check it out if you haven't. And by the way, if folks have seen Spider-Man or haven't, it does appear from that trailer at the end there that there may be more relevance to the larger MCU than we might imagine. So I do think folks should check it out. Not to give any spoilers away, of course.
Okay, so let's move now on to your, as you mentioned there, your second topic. So that was, if you want to give us a bit of an idea of that one.
Yeah. I like I said, I mentioned What If. I think that's certainly among something that folks should check out, and is really an amazing series, and great to see Marvel Studios move into animation. We're all familiar with X-Men, and some of their other animated shows, but in terms of the operation run by Kevin Feige, this is their first animated show, and it's really been, it was a phenomenal production. Really great animation style too. I just loved it.
It took me a little bit of time with that one. It took a couple of episodes for me to like gel with the animation. I didn't quite jump in at the beginning.
Yeah. It took a little getting used to, but I always love creativity in animation and people trying new things. So it was great to see them do something different. Same with, I would say, Star Wars Bad Batch. Of course, this continues what you might call the Filoni verse in Star Wars, where Dave Filoni, is still continuing to produce great new series. He did it with Clone Wars Season 7 that we got in the first year of Disney Plus. And it just, to me, like, one of the best things about Disney Plus is that Dave Filoni is going to be getting, these tens of millions of dollar budgets to tell Star Wars stories, because the guy is just absolutely born to do that. And he tells great stories in that galaxy. So Star Wars Bad Batch was a wonderful continuation of some chapters in the Star Wars saga that we hadn't seen before. Almost kind of an A-Team concept, if you've watched much of that show. I mean, it was very much...
I grew up with that one. I used to have the 18 band and everything.
They've actually got it on Hulu, so I've definitely been watching some of the old ones. It's a great show. It's so you get this obviously a mismatched kind of crew of people who come in and gangbuster style and fix situations a lot of times. But it was great, and of course there are connections to the larger Star Wars universe. Ming-Na Wen's character, Fennec Shand, shows up there, and she's going to be a big part of the Book of Boba Fett. So, I think folks should absolutely check out Bad Batch if you haven't. That's, a great show as well. One that's a great entry in the Star Wars saga. We've already know they're getting a season 2. So I'm a big a fan and proponent of folks checking out animation. I think it's unfortunate that sometimes people think animation is just for kids. And, these shows, particularly What If and Bad Batch, I think show you that it's certainly broader than that. So
it's funny because I literally mentioned to my dad today, he popped over for lunch, and I said, Book of Boba Fett, coming up. And his first thing was, it's not a cartoon, is it? Because he just won't. If it's a cartoon, he just won't watch it. So it's definitely a thing with that one. So I'm going to now shift gears over to one of my top 3, which is experiments. So what this one is really, Disney, I think, started experimenting a lot more with their release schedule, especially with like the Disney Channel and the National Geographic stuff. They've been playing around with the schedules a bit. They've been trying different things out. They've been trying same day, next day, same week, next month, batch drops, in advance, not in advance. They've been really kind of moving things around a bit. And I think that really sort of helps. On one hand, I like them. I've got to the point where I'm like, guys, you've been experimenting for a year. You now just need to just try it out, try something out a little bit different. And I think that's definitely a way forward for them. Actually, I think after about a year, you'd imagine now they've got an idea. I would like them to sort it out. But what about you thinking?
Yeah, I love their experiments. I think there are some things like Premiere Access, that has been a great experiment to see. I think I actually did get Jungle Cruise on Premiere Access because I wanted to cover it and I couldn't get a screener in that situation. So I thought it was really good to see. I think there are, in this world of pandemic and issues of releasing and Hollywood needing to try out new models, I don't have a problem with Premiere Access, etc. I'm just glad that I'm not forced to necessarily buy a lot of these, and that they do give it to us within, say, 60 days. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, with my Premiere Access, I purchased Black Widow in the morning, and in some ways I probably would have carried on. But I also feel like with that price point, it does put a little bit of a restraint on it, because I know, like, recently I looked on the system and I saw like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and the new Bond movie were both like £16 each, and I literally just went to my office and said, "I will wait till they get cheaper." So that's where that thing with the Premier Access is it's a bit pricey if you don't want to spend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I wouldn't have done that, for instance, for Cruella. I finally watched it when it came out free for everybody, but it just wasn't exactly up my alley. So, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So let's now shift gears over to your second one. Sorry, actually, your third one now. So
It's actually first. It's actually first. We missed.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So, which is the release of the Mysterious Benedict Society, which was really a surprise to me because this is a great family show. It is a one that really has broad appeal, though. I think it is very well produced from 20th century TV. The team there really faithfully adapted the novel, from Trenton Lee Stewart, The Mysterious Benedict Society, and it just has this great, almost kind of Wes Anderson feel to it. It's shot in a really, I think interesting way, a 1970s kind of locale, and it's a fun series, even though it is kids who are like 12 and under, whatever the four leads are. Tony Hale is a big part of the show, who's obviously a comedian seen in a lot of shows, Veep and otherwise. You're starting to see him in a lot more. People also know him as Forky, of course, but he really carries that show because he plays dual roles of both the villain and kind of a hero figure who are twins. And so he is a great kind of, anchor for that show. And then you have a great cast of supporting. It's basically kind of takes place on two ensembles where you have these kids who are on an island and, kind of at this school and infiltrating this school to kind of understand what's going on. And then you have the adult characters who are, trying to get to them, feed them information, also solve the mystery on their side of things. So it's a great show. If people haven't checked it out, I would just highly encourage people. It's already gotten to season 2. Again, thumbs up to Disney for giving that a renewal. There are some other ones we really want to see renewals. I'm advocate for prop culture coming back. I hope one day it does. But this is a great one that is a dramatic series. It's obviously a big budget, and they did a great job of just giving us a stellar dramatic show here.
It's definitely it's one of my favorite ones of the year from the Disney side. I think because it was so fresh for me, it felt a little bit different, and I like that about it. It kind of, and it had kids in it, but it didn't feel like you're watching a kid show. That was the big difference for me. But yeah, I thought that one was a great, just a great one. But let's now shift over to my third one, and this one's quite a big one. And obviously, Josh will be coming from a different angle. Was the introduction of Star. So back in February, they brought in Star for us, and it literally just changed everything in terms of Disney Plus. Because if you're unaware of what Star is it's basically a sixth brand within Disney. It is a completely different way of bringing in content. So as you can see here on my Disney Plus, if you're watching the video version, we've got shows like Dope Sick, we've got The Kingsman, The Last Duel, Malcolm in the Middle. We got lots of content in here. A lot of it is available on Hulu in the United States, but it's all built into Disney Plus. It's not like mixed. I mean, I think originally people thought it was a little bit more separated, but it is literally a full-blown version of Disney Plus with everything. And it has completely changed Disney Plus here in the UK, Australia, Canada, and pretty much in every country except for the United States and Latin America. I'm watching so much more. I watch Disney Plus every day. My wife watches Disney Plus every day. My parents watch Disney Plus. My brother, we are just watching so much more because we got for us, it's for us adults. I've been getting into things like, American Horror Story. Dope Sick was probably one of the best TV series I've seen all year. It was just an amazing amount of content that's been added.
Yeah, so coming from my perspective, and I think obviously the United States, we feel that there's a lot of content we're not getting, and that's a common feeling and a common sentiment among a lot of U.S. subscribers that it's not simply that and we'll get into this a little bit more in the disappointments area, but that we're not getting some of the more mature content, but even content that is like Father of the Bride 1 and 2 that would be on your side in the UK, not showing up here, here in the US. So that's frustrating. But I would say on my plus side, being a subscriber of Hulu, and by the way, I mean, Hulu you can get for, if you just catch those Black Friday deals every year. I mean, this year it was 99 cents a month now you can get Hulu. Yeah. So if folks miss that, I'm sorry. But it's like there's hardly an excuse not to get it. I didn't really do much with it in 1 year of it. But then when this show Only Murders in the Building came out with
Yeah.
Steve Martin and Martin Short, my wife and I were absolutely addicted to it. And, that is a total highlight and a surprise for the past year, because that show is just firing on all cylinders. It is funny. It is dramatic. It is a great mystery. And it also spoofs kind of true crime. So which is a genre that I love, and appreciate those documentaries and all the work that's been done in that space lately. So yeah, it's and also Selena Gomez. Of course, I can't just say Steve Martin and Martin Short. Selena Gomez is an absolute huge part of that trio, and brings so much and gives you kind of some of the intergenerational humor and such that's there as well. So they're already filming, of course, season 2 in New York City right now. And I think they're just wrapping that up. And so we're going to see season 2 of that show as well. So that is, it is a TVMA show for language, and I think
a bit of blood. I think there's a bit of blood in there at some of the points.
Yeah. Like a lot of the crime procedural type stuff. No question, that's what you're getting the maturity for. But I think that's a great example of a mature show that could work in Disney US. No question. I mean, it's, even though it's TVMA for language reasons, if I'm not mistaken, it could absolutely work on this side of the pond as well. I'm a little bit different when people say, oh, well, Disney should go full Netflix. And I don't think Disney Plus should go full Netflix, here in the US, in the sense of, like, if you think about what's on Netflix, I mean, Squid Game, and Bridgerton, I mean, it just, the thing is that here in the US, like, Disney does represent something. It has this 100-year history with the brand, and there are families, in the heartland of America who very much depend on it as kind of like, okay, it says Disney on it, it's safe for my kids, or it's safe for the family. And so it's tough. I know that you've got to balance these things, and there's probably stuff even right now, frankly, on current Disney Plus in the US that I'm sure somebody can be upset about. So I don't think we need to, necessarily, I don't know what the phrase people might use, bow to the Karens or something, of like, we have to, anybody who's offended, that we have to, kind of go by their standards. But I don't know that, for instance, the content level of what you see in Bridgerton or what you see in some other Netflix shows, that would be a great way to go on Disney. So it's an interesting thing, just when you talk about Star and you talk about, that is a, as something that you're excited about. And I know it's a big discussion, I think, but I just think it kind of requires some nuance to think about how in the US, it's a little bit different of how people are handling it. And I think it should be expanded, but just be done with some care.
It's definitely a kind of a weird thing, I think, as well, of like, almost like you say, you've kind of got the coasts are very much kind of like wanting Star, and then, like you said, the Heartland has got a different view. I think Disney, the only way I feel like Disney could get in, I don't think they could essentially do like a straight up Star launch the same way they did it for, I think, tippy toes, start dropping some things in there a bit more, and start getting people used to the parental controls that are in there, because a lot of people aren't even aware of it. And I think just slowly just dropping things. I mean, something like Get Back was very different for Disney Plus, and I think that was pushing the boundaries a little bit more. There's actually, it's one of your disappointments, so we'll jump into that one now. Actually, was the lack of comedy series that you said. You might as well jump into that one, because I think we're pretty much on that.
Yeah, we are, absolutely. No question. I mean, you mentioned lack of drama. I would say lack of comedy series in the sense of you guys have both Scrubs and Malcolm in the Middle, two excellent comedy series that are family friendly. The thing about Scrubs is that it comes from, the show creator behind Ted Lasso, that is getting so much attention here in the US. And I think even globally. I don't really know if it's being distributed globally, but at any rate, it's, it is, a brilliant show, Scrubs. It went for, I think 7-8 seasons. It is a really fun ensemble show. It's got some edgier stuff in it for sure. There's certainly relationships that take place, and it's a TV-14 show. So, no question, parents should have some discretion with that show, probably to even agree some of what's on Disney Plus. Like I say, maybe some people would find some episodes of Once Upon a Time or some of the TV-14 shows that are there a little bit iffy, but that's a great example of a comedy that should be on Disney Plus. And I think Malcolm in the Middle, as well, just a really well done show as well, family show, but one that has certainly it's not the same type of show that you might find on Disney Channel. It's a little more, obviously it came from the Fox network originally. A lot of just a little bit more of a modern, and you have Modern Family I see pulled up as well.
Well, it's for me, you see, one of the things that always gets me is something like Modern Family, Mixed-ish, I think that's a great example. The Wonder Years, we've just started that one now. I feel like that is a way for just for us to do something. Like, why not have TV shows and stuff that actually feature families and feature kids? If you got a whole story literally about a family with a kid going to high school or a kid at primary school, that kind of feels like that should be something that should be available on Disney Plus. But obviously, it is a little bit tricky in terms of how they do it. But for me, it definitely feels like just shows with kids should be, and families, feels like something that should be natural for it, don't you?
Yeah, very much agree. There's a lot, of great content Disney has from ABC, from even their legacy side. I mean, I think one of the bigger surprises and disappointments for me, when we talk about comedy shows, is that they remade, obviously Wonder Years, and then they didn't put it on Disney Plus, was surprising to me. And then they didn't put the original on Disney Plus either. Same with Doogie Howser. They actually did release that, obviously, in the US. That's a big release for us, the new, Doogie series. And yet they didn't include the original from ABC back, that they have access to. And it's a great show,
What did you think of Doogie Carmelo? Because me and James really didn't like it.
Yeah, honestly, I saw a little bit of it with my wife, and we just kind of bailed on it. It's not one that I don't think was really great, and just so it was unfortunate that there were some ones like that just didn't, I don't think, totally fulfill their promise entirely. So, but like you say, there were experiments, and I appreciate that. But on to some other disappointments. Obviously, the big one would be, you're going to talk, I know, maybe broadly about library content, but, for me, I would say there are some specific bizarre legacy omissions that are there. When you talk about Zorro, particularly, that's existing right now in Latin America, Disney Plus, on Disney Plus Brazil. It's like, this is something that fans have asked for in the U.S. It was filmed on the Walt Disney Studios lot in California, so in English, and obviously that's the track that's available out there. So it is absolutely bizarre that is not available right now in the U.S. And it's one of those ones where people just feel like, who are longtime fans, like, what is going on? Why? Why would they keep that in another in another region and not available in the U.S. where it was filmed and where it was designed to target?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, really, kind of this whole thing with legacy. I like, here in the UK, we're getting like movies and TV series dropping like every week. We're getting tons of stuff, so it's a little bit hard for. I'm looking at it sometimes going, well, there's some stuff, what's annoying sometimes, if you don't guys get it, we're not getting it either. So but they are going back. They're really kind of going through the 20th century library at the minute. But just like the lack of content coming through on the US side, then that filters in down to all of us, because it's not just if they make it available, generally it's fits out. We had like dinosaurs in the Muppet Show this year, but there's really been hardly any. It's almost like they've gone, is it just not worth the financial side of it? It's really strange.
They've had a lot of turnover there, and so I wonder if that's part of it. Just people who don't realize what's in process, or people are not kind of maybe bird dogging, in a sense, their own kind of streaming people to make sure that happens. But I think the other omissions I mentioned, Father of the Bride 1 and 2 is another one that's just absolutely strange that's not there. And I mentioned the film Endurance, which is an Olympics movie released in the 90s, a film about a runner from, I think Nigeria. But at any rate, that also was a no-show, one that could easily have showed up. And, this was the year of the Summer Olympics. It could have certainly come onto the service. So there's just, little things like that where, to their credit, like you said, hey, Dinosaurs, Muppet Show, we had a good start of the year. Those two that came out, and then April was a big month. We had a whole video about the amount of legacy content that showed up in that month, and this kind of segues a little bit, honestly, into my last disappointment, because this issue of collections, because you look at what happened in April. What they did was something called the Star Wars Vintage Collection. They dropped that all at once, where it was about 6 or 7 Star Wars titles that had been unreleased. The 2 Ewoks movies, the Clone Wars cartoon, the droids and Ewoks cartoons that have been done. So several things that are, maybe not a big deal to the large general public, especially if they had been released on a one-off basis, people would have just not even mentioned them. But the fact that they put like 5, 6, 7, 8 things all in one and called it the Star Wars Vintage Collection, that is a great strategy. That is how you get attention for these legacy titles. And the thing is, they could be doing that every month. Like they have stuff they could be doing it for Father's Day, for instance, in May. Bring us some stuff that's all really that's rather June. So May would be Mother's Day, June would be Father's Day. Here in the U.S., July is Independence Day. Where it would be focused on perhaps American history and some of the things that they've done in that space, Johnny Tremaine and certainly other types of titles. So they could easily collect 5 or 6 legacy titles, put them out, all at once and get attention that way for these titles. There are some, for instance, in Black History Month, I really hope they're looking closely at their library, for February releases. They have the great, Celebrate Black Stories collection, but there are, a dozen titles that they could easily be adding to that. Polly is the great musical that was done, a remake of Pollyanna, with an all African American cast that has a real cult following here in the U.S. People love it. It was actually there was 2 musicals that were done, and those have not been in print for a long time. They were released on DVD to the Disney Movie Club, and then just haven't been seen ever since. Same with the Ernest Green story, great title in the '90s that won. Some very prestigious Peabody Award here in the U.S. And, again, hasn't been seen for decades. So they have a lot of stuff in their library, in their content they could easily be pulling in on a seasonal basis.
So moving on from there, let's go talk about some of the other disappointments. One of the things here was the lack of scheduling. And this is especially with regards to classic stuff of getting this content coming in all the time, getting things regularly coming in, but also relates to scheduling of National Geographic content, Disney Channel, and then us here with like our originals as well. Why are some shows, for example, like the Disney Channel shows, why are they taking so long to be released internationally? We haven't got the Disney Channel. Why not get them out onto us much quicker? Why are they doing these batch drop for one in the US and they don't do it? Why are we all getting these Disney Channel shows at the same time? Make them into something a little bit more better. Same thing with the National Geographic stuff. Internationally as well, why are we getting some of these shows like, Hulu originals? Why do we get them a week later or months later? Big Sky with the ABC series. Why were we getting that on a couple of months there? Some of these decisions for me are just really frustrating with the whole idea of doing regular releases more often. And yeah, it just really feels like for me, the whole thing of not having a regular schedule really just makes no sense at all. Yeah. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think they have these assets of Disney Channel and of National Geographic, the cable channels that obviously are slowly disappearing throughout the world. We know that things are generally moving to streaming and that the cable channel bundles and all that are moving away. So yeah, they've got to use those assets to the fullest advantage, and to do that, you've got to go day and date and put them out at this, if not the same day as they're coming out on broadcast, a couple days after. And a show that I loved this last year that was a Nat Geo one, Journey. I think it's called Journey to the Center of the Earth. That Race to the Center of the Earth.
Race.
What is it? Yeah, Race. It's a reality show from the makers of Amazing Race, and it's a really well done show. And I love that they dropped the entire thing on there all at once in spring. Kind of got maybe lost a little bit, but I think they should continue to promote the Nat Geo stuff and get it out on a timely basis. That they're producing so much for the broadcast side of things. Go ahead and put it out on Disney Plus.
It's just really frustrating because I'm very much in that idea of it makes sense to keep feeding the television networks. They're still making money. There's still people there. And you don't want to take it away from them. But it's like, well, don't take it away from them. Just give it to everybody. Because I generally view that most people that have got Disney Plus probably won't have cable. Or probably there might be a little bit of crossover, but the majority of them won't. And it feels like they kind of missed the boat of like saying, here's a brand new animated series, The Owl House or Ghost of Molly McGee. And we're just going to put out a new episode every Wednesday on Disney Channel of this new series. It might line up with the Disney Channel, but we're going to do it globally. We're going to do this. This is just now one of our shows that we're going to, because sometimes they're arriving months later, like you say, Race to the Center of the Earth. I think it was a Disney Plus original here in the UK, 3 months after it got aired in the US. It's like, why? You know, this is
Yeah,
so
doesn't make a lot of sense.
that is definitely an annoyance of for me. I've got another annoyance which I wanted to get into. It was the lack of drama series, and this kind of ties in a little bit, I think, like you said about like the lack of comedy series. But for me, it was more like the idea of, we had like The Right Stuff, which was an amazing series, and we've spoke about that in the past. But Disney Plus seems to have just like, the original was just Doogie Kamealoha was just so bland. And then you had Diary of a Future President, which has just been recently cancelled. We had Turner and Hooch, which was okay-ish, but it was still so vanilla that it was just nothing. There was no meat to it. I mean, I do think Big Shot was the only one out of all of them that kind of had a little bit more meat to it, a little bit more. I mean, it's still a little bit more aimed at students, but it felt like you could watch it as an adult. And I think especially with like all these Star originals dropping in now, it makes it even more noticeable of how sometimes things like Doogie just felt just like, this is just I can't watch this. It just feels like I'm watching a Disney Channel show. And if you feel like they need to go a little bit higher than a Disney Channel network.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. I mean, I could definitely echo Zorro and that being one that I would love to see. I think there are some on the ABC side as well that could work. I've been enjoying Castle on Hulu quite a bit. I think it would kind of push the boundary a little bit of what folks in the US might expect on Disney Plus, but it's a great show. I think it's really well done. I don't think that folks may be going past that, like for instance, I don't think ABC's Desperate Housewives. Maybe it is, I'm sure, on Star, but I don't know that it's a great fit for Disney Plus US myself. But
yeah, well, this is why I said, like, if you can start pushing the boundaries a little bit and getting people more breaking up that idea of, something like The Wonder Years might be a prime example of a great show. I've seen the first 3 episodes because it's just coming to here in the UK for Christmas. That feels like a show that, well, that could have been a really good Disney Plus original or shared with ABC, because it's about a family and all the rest. And I feel like we could just something with a bit more meat, just something a little bit. I think especially after watching things like Only Murders in the Building and Dope Sick, really shows like you don't always have to. It can be hard hitting shows and hard hitting things. But Disney Channel or Disney Plus is never going to, I feel like, hit that next stage if all they ever do is Marvel and Star Wars for drama. And we can't do anything with humans in it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think they should be thinking in terms of genres that they want to own. So for instance, sci-fi. I mean, that's obviously a genre that they're already known for. They have series like the classic Lost in Space is one. The excellent Firefly. With Nathan Fillion, and that's a 20th century show. It might be on Star over there, but it is, that's a 1-season show that they should absolutely have on the series on Disney Plus. And it's a little bit more mature than you might expect, and it's gonna probably have the TV-14 rating on it. But they should be known for sci-fi and get as much from that catalog as they can get onto the service. And I think mystery as well is another one. They have some stuff, in the classic, whether it's Moonlighting or some of the other classic dramas that ABC did. It's just a number of ways they could be thinking outside the box about stuff to get. And I think honestly, you talk about mature content. There is so much as well on the Nat Geo side. I mean, they're putting out like Inside North Korea and a lot of really interesting documentary stuff. That we're just not getting in the US because of the rating. So,
and I think National Geographic actually makes the most sense actually to use as the way of doing it. So here, for example, I don't know if you've watched The Rescue. I mean, that was a fantastic documentary, which pushed it. I mean, I just watched the first wave. I mean, that was they put it on Hulu in the US but it's like things like that are going. This is where they could really push the boundary a little bit more, with these kind of National Geographic stuff. I mean, Fauci. It might be very, obviously in the US, he's a very different kind of, it grabs a lot of attention. But putting that onto Disney Plus kind of was like, people. I remember, people being all over the place with that one because they're not expecting that kind of content to be dropping in and becoming Cousteau. And to me, it's like, right, if you're going to do the National Geographic, do all in on it. Don't do this like half baked kind of version of it. I think documentaries as well are much more easier for them to explore the TV ratings a little bit more and to go push the boundaries, because kids aren't going to be interested in a documentary about a White House assistant. It's just yeah.
I very much agree with that. I mean, there's a great series that's Rebuilding Paradise that I think was executive produced by Ron Howard, a Nat Geo series, about Paradise, California, massive fires that they've had there. Really, quality content, but you're going to find it on Hulu here in the U.S. And then there's a number of series like that. So, and you guys, honestly, in the UK have got, I think I've tracked a couple of dozen, different ones that you have access to on the Nat Geo side that we don't have. So, yeah, I think that'd be a great inroads, the documentary stuff. They should be known for documentaries, frankly, and have a collection, for instance, of documentaries about the movie making process. I mean, they have a dozen or so already on the service, and they could easily add a dozen more that are sitting in the library. Stuff like the Ub Iwerks story that Leslie Iwerks' father, who was a major Imagineer and figure in Disney company history. It's just sitting out there, in the vault. We're not getting a hold of it. They could also, by the way, be acquiring a few other ones. I mean, Floyd Norman, An Animated Life. He's a great animator, been with Disney since the days of Jungle Book. African-American man, shares about his journey in a really interesting documentary that, they would just have to work out the rights to get that. And there's a couple of others like that where, their brands are already represented in documentaries. There might be some acquisitions they could do to kind of bulk up that collection and have, kind of highlight these movie making documentaries. It's like they have Howard, they've done a few others that they've put out, but it's like collect them, and I think it gets more attention.
Well, it's like, like you say, like Howard and Wolfgang and things like this. They're all very, very well made documentaries. And a lot of these ones are floating around the film market before they get picked up by Disney. Yeah, they're pushing it, but it feels like like Get Back is another one that's a prime example. So where they're pushing it and then they pull back, then like the second hour, and there's like this weird bit right now of what they're doing. But ultimately, I do feel like as we're finishing off 2021. I feel like Disney Plus is generally in a much better place than it was when we were going into 2021. We've got all these, the originals have been dropping right through. They've been playing around with the schedules, but we've got a lot more on there. Obviously internationally as well, Star fixed a whole host of the problems. There's still little issues here and there, but generally, Disney Plus to me, I'm going into 2022 in a completely different mood than I came into 2021 on in terms of Disney Plus. It was been a lot of stuff.
I'm probably a little bit more skeptical because I do think that Bob Iger was a huge part of giving us the first 2 years of Disney Plus. The fact of having 5 Marvel series in 1 year and the investment that took, I don't know that the new CEO, Bob Chapek, necessarily is interested in that. I don't know that we're going to see another year with 5 Marvel series that are coming out in 1 year.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I actually don't want that because I felt it was overkill. I think if they do the 3 next year that they've announced, I actually would be quite happy with that. Especially if we're getting 3 Star Wars series. I think that mix it up a little bit. I think 5 Marvel series was a bit much.
I think that Iger, though, he recognized when the pandemic hit that you had to do some crazy things to get attention, and he got Hamilton on the service very quickly in July 4th. Perfect timing, perfect film. Gave him a huge boost of subscriptions. I thought there were some other little surprises along the way. I know he was a huge part of the Beatles deal that happened, that documentary, and also the film Clouds that they acquired, from Warner Brothers. Was just a perfect fit for the series and something that that's for the service rather, Disney Plus. And I don't know that they have people as much thinking outside the box about content. And I hope so. I think we're going to get some great Star Wars content in the coming year. I have no doubt of that. I just think you have to, especially on the Disney brand side, be.
Well, I was just going to say they've put somebody new in charge recently, in charge of Disney brand, and there's been a lot of corporate reshuffling, trying to, I think, get rid of the layers. I mean, it's taken a while, and I think there's been a lot of issues. But I think going into there's a lot of the press announcements now. Things are a little bit more. I think a little bit more sharper in terms of what we're getting. But it's just going to, unfortunately, we've still got probably another year until the full production schedule kicks in at full rate.
Yep. Well, I think you're right that they have to do more than Marvel and Star Wars. That's a huge key thing for Disney to figure out, and you have to kind of point back to, I think, how Walt Disney himself did entertainment, which was sometimes historical fiction, sometimes, you know, inspirational type stories. You know, there's a lot of genres that Disney himself was involved in producing, and you know, there were animal heroic stories as well. You know, so it's it's a broad thing, family entertainment. You don't want to get pigeonholed into just one type of movie. So, but I'm appreciative of Walt's on Disney Plus. I feel like it's a resource as somebody who writes a lot on Disney. It's a thing that people should be subscribed to. It's like, even though I'm very plugged in, getting a lot of the press releases, etc., I'm always seeing stuff on the site. It's like, wow, Roger caught that from somewhere. You know, the Bear in the Big Blue House, you know, very likely coming next year is a great thing. That's something to look forward to. So, you know, there's little things like that we can look forward to, and I'm glad that you're tracking so much of these things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but we'd love to know what you think is your top 3 things that you loved about Disney Plus this year, and your top 3 disappointments. I'd love to hear all of them in the comments. Remember to go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. You can subscribe over there. Big thank you to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members there. Josh, where can they find you?
Well, I'm right there on the screen. At Josh M. Shep is on Twitter. I also have a page that you can link to there that has a lot of my work. Obviously, I'm on a number of different sites, so including yours, Roger. Need to do another one here soon for sure.
Yes. On that note, guys, thank you very much. Hope you all have a fantastic New Year, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Later.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas.
I'd like to thank all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members for their support. You can become a member from as little as $2 a month, and you get access to our weekly Q&A and much more.